How's how's it going, everyone? Panyo here. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of After Dinner Mints. Before we begin, I want to highly encourage everyone who's watching to join us in the Art Blocks Discord, which is where our community lives. I'm talking about collectors, artists, people who are interested in generative art. Join us in the Art Blocks Discord. People will be chatting in the Art Blocks Mints channel. So if you are watching live right now, jump in the Art Blocks Mints channel. A link to our Discord can be found in the description of this video. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of our weekly show. And now I want to introduce our guest for this evening. We have Art Blocks founder and generative artist, Snowfro.
Hey, everybody.
And then we have two guests tonight. Both of them are on the Curation board, and both of them are Art Blocks collectors. I want to welcome VonMises.
Hey, hi everyone. Great to be here.
And Raster Eyes. Cool. I want to thank you both for being on this evening. VonMises, I want to kick things off with you.
Okay.
Can you just first tell us a little bit about how you got into, the NFT scene and crypto?
Yeah, sure. So I got involved in crypto in 2011 with an investment in Bitcoin. I put about $5,000 into Bitcoin. I was interested in the technology. I was kind of a finance geek, so that really got me interested in it. And literally everything that I have in crypto has flown from that investment. So I got into NFTs through Gods Unchained, 2018. That was not a great investment, but I liked the game. I played Magic the Gathering in my past, and so I liked the aspects of it, plus crypto, plus the whole trading aspect of it. And that led me to CryptoPunks. Once I got curious about the technology and looked into it more, and that's where I met Snowfro and started learning more about NFTs, and it really just snowballed from there. And then from CryptoPunks, I got to Art Blocks.
Excellent. That's great. So were you aware of generative art prior to Art Blocks, or is this something that was kind of new to you when you learned about Art Blocks?
I mean, from the Punks Discord, we would people like Snowfro would talk about autoglyphs, and eventually got me into autoglyphs. And obviously, I think autoglyphs a generative piece. So, I definitely had gotten involved with some generative art before Art Blocks, and Snow talking a lot about the on-chain aspect of it and paying tribute to autoglyphs, and the vision was kind of all came together in terms of me seeing things that were interesting in the space and then hearing the vision of it, and that's kind of why I was really attracted to it. So I had some experience with generative art before Art Blocks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. And how did you learn about Art Blocks? Did you just encounter Snowfro in the Punks Discord, and that's how you learned about it?
I think the thing is, back then, also the Punks Discord was significantly less active, and it was 20 or 30 of us that were there on a pretty regular basis talking about things. So, you really got to hear ideas that people were interested in, and the people that you respected, you listened to. And so, again, hearing someone like Snow talk about his involvement in blockchain and being involved in CryptoPunks and claiming punks and claiming zombies and all these things, and having the vision and a shared vision of what we saw the future being like when he elaborated about what the next level of it was, for me, it was a very, very easy thing to follow. And so I've said this before, I'll say it publicly, 100% I'm involved in Art Blocks, 100% because of Snowfro.
That's awesome. Yeah, we love Snowfro.
Yeah.
What was so I'm assuming your first project that you purchased on Art Blocks were the Chromie Squiggles then, since you got in when
I think I bought Genesis. I think I bought Genesis. I showed up late, an hour late, and the damn construction tokens had sold out. And then I bought I think I minted 27 Genesis tokens. And then I started minting Squiggles, and I think I minted about 100 Squiggles the first day.
Oh wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool. And I remember sending Snow the mints. What do you think? What do you think? And couple cool ones. The hyper bold, which I did sell at a weak moment. But lots of stuff we talked about, and it was cool. I mean, I got really into Squiggles right away, and started really like trying to understand what they were all about, and asking Snow a lot of questions about them. And he was kind enough to share some of the process in terms of what went on, and it was cool. I really liked learning about them and understanding like what creates the different colors and stuff like that, and color spread and what it means and how it impacts on the squiggle. Like, it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I have to say, Von got pretty deep on that. I mean, I'd get some direct messages here and there. Every now and then I'd be like, wow, it just, like the full spectrum, perfect spectrum, that was something he pointed out. He's like, hey man, some of these are exactly a whole loop. And, it's stuff that I think with punks, we'd find stuff like a couple years later after punks, like, oh, a 7-trait, 6-trait. Like, that was something that wasn't really part of the traits list until a couple years into it. And I felt like some of the traits that Von pulled out pretty early are some that we would have eventually caught, I guess, but it was really cool to catch him early.
Yeah, thank you.
From his investigation.
Yeah, I was definitely into it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna pull up your shared screen on Cyber Vault right now.
Okay.
And so I'd love for you to kind of just take us through. I'm gonna walk around, since I'm controlling it. I'm gonna walk around, and if you see something that you want to talk to, I might ask some questions here and there, if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, sure. So I mean, like, immediately to your right are the
Sorry.
those are the two construction tokens that were to the right.
Hold on 1 second. Man, hold on. That's not letting me move forward. That's not. Well,
there you go.
It's moving slowly. It's moving very slowly.
That's unfortunate.
All right. Well, anyways, I'm trucking along here. So if you
well, that dynamic slice on the left, that's the cyber palette. That's the only cyber palette color palette from the dynamic slice drop. So that's a 1 of 1. That's definitely the key to that drop. So that's one that I'm happy to have. Yeah, I mean, I think dynamic slices was an interesting early project, and I like it.
Very cool. And then, man, this is there we go. Moving
So we're coming up on those singularities. So
yeah, straight ahead.
I minted 37 singularities, and those 3 I all minted. So those are like the finest examples that I minted of a red, a blue, and a green.
Wow, that's amazing. And for anyone that doesn't know, those are all pretty rare. I think just the black and white ones are going to be the most general ones, and then the colored ones are going to be the nicer ones.
Yeah. So I have a corner archetype, which is a really nice one. Definitely, I mean, I'd love to have a cube, but I didn't get a cube. The unigrid right next to it, which is kind of hard to see. I actually just got that recently. That's a, rare color combo. 2 color, which, like, kind of the keys. Like, I guess a lot of times when you're building a collection like this, like, I decided pretty early what I wanted to do was going to go for a high level of not only rarity but also a high level of eye appeal. We are talking about generative art, and so I think some things that people forget is that it has to look nice too. Being rare by itself doesn't really mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
If you can turn to the left a little bit.
Yep.
A little bit more to the left, actually. So yeah, so
the
the hyper hash, like the rainbow hyper hash, like there are some in that drop that are actually rarer, statistically speaking. But this is an example where if you're going to have a hyper hash, you really should have the rainbow. Like, to me, that's the key to that drop. Whether there's statistically rarer ones or not, it doesn't matter. So when you're building a collection like that, like, that's the piece that I wanted to have, and fortunately was able to pick one up. So I would recommend that one for the rainbow hyper hashes are definitely the way to go. So again, always trying to balance rarity with eye appeal to really create a set, a collection that really exemplifies some of the more important art blocks drops and also highlights them in a, aesthetically pleasing way.
Got it. Okay. And so when you built this, you had, so in mind, you had the rarity traits, obviously, but then also aesthetically, it's something that you wanted to add into the mix as well, correct?
Yeah, I don't just, it can't just be, obviously rare and beautiful is the most desirable.
Hmm.
So, but you will also want to have it be appealing to the eye also. Yeah, that the red-bodied ringers is pretty rare. That's a pretty
Yeah.
tough one. The one next to it is,
Bullseye.
recursive, bullseye, and off center, which is like just a nice combo. It almost has like a face look to it.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting mint.
Yeah. It's very abstract.
Oh yeah, like definitely on the um I like the 27-bit. That's a black and white. There's only 4 black and white ones. So,
Uh,
although that drop is not the most popular drop, I do like that one. It's kind of an interesting example for the
mhm.
synapse, like the in
Darker
black and
background.
yeah, black white. There's only like 27 of those, I think. So that's a nice one. If you're going to get it in spiral, you definitely want the doubles. The doubles, when you put them in motion, just have a crazy effect. So again,
Yeah.
like if there's a lot of there are rarer ones in the drop, but the doubles are definitely the cool one. That's a pretty
Hmm.
rare one overall, but in general, the doubles are the way to go with those.
Very cool.
And then the Fidenza is like, I mean, I can't say enough about Fidenza. I mean, like from a diversity of output and just an interesting style. Like,
Hmm.
for me, it's definitely taken the platform to another level and just really highlights like just amazing things that can happen in the generative space. And I think Tyler Hobbs is probably going to have a pretty bright future in the generative space. And
Hmm.
I mean, for me, Fidenza is really sets the standard for what I want to see in a generative drop, like combining really great diversity of output with really high quality overall. Like even the worst mints are really amazing. So I mean, for
Yeah.
me, this project really upped the bar, and I'm super impressed with it. And obviously that's a spiral, and I have to say that I am biased, obviously, because I have a spiral, but I think that the spirals are really like the top of the expression of that drop. Like really like just pull everything
Hmm.
together. And like it's just amazing that this output can have so many different forms that all look so good and still kind of have this like cohesive look. Like you can look at a
Yeah.
Fidenza and you're like, that's a Fidenza. And even though there's
Exactly.
all these different styles and shapes, they still have that cohesiveness and at a high level. And that's just for me what really separates this drop from a lot.
I completely agree. As far as the Fidenzas, besides the spiral, what would be your favorite out of the remaining four? So you have this pink one, pink background, and then these three. Do you have a favorite between those
Yeah,
four?
I mean, it's interesting. Like I think like super blocks, which the
The
cool
one in the
color, which is
corner.
and the far one, the white one, far away. Those are both super blocks, and it's not really that rare of a trait. It's 25% of the drop has super blocks, but I really like the elongated shape pattern, and it kind of creates almost like a rail yard type look, which I think
Hmm.
really gives them a very interesting look. And I think that, while it's not really all that rare of a trait, it really adds quite a lot of visual to it. So I'm kind of a fan of that more than I would normally, given that it's not a super rare trait. So like we can agree that spiral is a super rare trait that also is strikingly beautiful. So like that's
Yeah.
ideally what you want. But like from a more common point, the super blocks I think really add a lot to a Fidenza piece in general.
Gotcha. Yeah, I completely, and I love your, like how you said that, it looks like a rail yard. When I actually first saw these, I thought they looked like a bunch of ship sea containers kind of just traveling through a canal or like a river, or
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it's, yeah, I
I
love
think
how it just brings out the
specifically
imagination.
I think specifically super blocks though on a Fidenza
Yeah,
gives it that rail yard type look. So I
yeah,
like that.
completely agree.
Um, yeah, and so that's a summit um, right there. The white.
Yeah,
I'm forgetting the name of the drop right now.
subscapes.
Subscapes. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I picked that one up kind of late, but still I'm happy with it. And I got a little bit busy about a month and a half ago with a work related thing, and really took me out of my game a little bit. And I was a little late on Fidenza and had to chase it. But like as soon as I took the time to really look at it, I realized I had to chase it. And I never chase the stuff. I just
Yeah.
don't. It's just not my style. But I did chase the Fidenzas quite a bit. And
Very cool.
thankfully made some good decisions there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
wow. This watercolor, watercolor dreams is incredible. I love this color palette.
that's an inverse also. And so the inverse ones are definitely the rare ones. I think only like, 20 something of them are inverse. That's actually a really, really rare one with a great color palette. And definitely like that's something that I'm happy to have in the collection because it's rare and it's got a really nice look to it. So that's something I'm happy about.
And it kind of matches nice. Like the palette actually complements this
Yeah.
apparitions over here as well.
And that's why I paired them together. That's Miami on the right, like the color palette's Miami blue, I think, or Miami, I think it's called. And so yeah, I kind of like the way the pinks and blues played off of each other a little bit. So
wow, it's amazing.
um,
And then
so
over here we got a dreams over here.
yeah, it's a pretty rare dreams that I picked up. I like the looks of it. The one thing that like, one criticism I make of dreams is some of the rarity traits like don't really, it's hard to see the differences in the outputs. And like I like the outputs overall. I think they're interesting, but I do feel like with that drop specifically, there's a lot of extraneous rarities that really you can't really tell what they're doing on the outputs. And look, maybe I haven't looked at them enough. It's definitely possible. But that's one knock on that. There is a lot of diversity in output in that run, but sometimes like I feel like there's a little bit of extraneous rarity just mixed in to make it rarer.
Got it.
Hyper fuzzy,
which
is obviously a nice one. And then the two those were consecutively minted hyper rainbows that I minted 1770 and 1771. So that was kind of cool. I really thought maybe like something had happened when the second one popped up. Like couldn't possibly be two of them back to back, but there they are.
Wow. So, were you shocked when you minted both of them back to back?
Yeah, I was definitely very surprised when the second one popped up. Did not think that was going to happen.
Wow, and that's amazing.
Back to the beginning, we have the construction tokens, which is where we started. And one thing about those construction tokens, that was the first drop to sell out on art blocks, and those are the only two complementary ones that happened in that drop. So I'm happy to have both of them in the gallery.
That's awesome. And then is there anything you would like to see, as far as, things that you cannot do currently with the gallery tools that's given to you on OnCyber? Because I have Ryan on next week on After Dinner Mints, so I'd be interested to know your input.
I mean, I just want to say to everybody out there that I'm super, super impressed with OnCyber and what they're doing. I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, what an amazing way to be able to showcase the beautiful art that Art Blocks has put out. I mean, it's amazing. And, I think that we'll see VR out of them. I think that you're going to see, a lot more things happening that are going to make this a really special place. So I would definitely encourage people to, get more involved with OnCyber because this is great for art blocks. It's a great way to show off a collection. And even, they have smaller galleries if you don't have as much. They have free galleries as well. This is a Genesis gallery. You have to pay for it. But, in general, I'm super, super, super impressed with OnCyber.
Awesome.
And I have spoke to Ryan. He definitely gets it. Like he wants to build this business and really have a big impact on NFTs. So I'm super excited to hear him next week also. But he's got it going on with this.
That's great. That's awesome to hear. And so just for anyone that knows, oncyber.io is the website. You can start a free gallery. A lot of people, have built galleries, and there's even a channel for galleries. You can view a bunch of other people's, galleries in the community. But moving on, I would love to know, like, what is your favorite Art Blocks project and why?
I mean, it's like, of course I'm going to make Snow blush, but, Squiggles obviously is, definitely one of my favorites for a lot of reasons. I mean, like from the nerd in me, like it's one of the ultimate generative nerd projects. Like it doesn't have the non-generative beauty that Fidenza has, but it has on a very high level of purity from a generative standpoint that I like. So the colors, the shapes of it, everything about it, I really like. So, but I mean, Fidenza, if you're talking about a project that is has the potential to transcend the generative space. In my opinion, I would have to say Fidenza is definitely on a pretty high level. And
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
That's great. And then, like, what are your bigger picture? Let's just say, 5 to 10 years from now, what are your views when it comes to NFTs, or specifically when it comes to generative art? Like, where do you see things in 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, I see like things like OnCyber, like really taking on more importance, whether it's, avatars able to have meetings in arts in larger spaces, where people can come together and like have basically the metaverse taken to a more extreme level. But ultimately, I think the next really big frontier will be AR. And when you start having the ability to display NFTs in your home, or for people that come over, or I mean, I think it's very possible someone will walk into my house one day and they'll have AR enabled glasses, and they'll be like, "Is that a real CryptoPunk?" Yeah, that's a real CryptoPunk, or whatever. Like, I think that the ability to do that is going to really change NFTs, and really, we're taking ownership of these assets right now, and a lot of people don't understand why we're doing it. And I think that it's preparing for the world that we're headed towards. I mean, we're all seeing computers taking on, obviously playing massive roles in everybody's lives, and remote working and all these things. And for me, it's pretty clear that you're seeing a wave right now, and even if it gets a little ahead of itself, which it may or may not be getting a little ahead of itself, the future is so much higher and so much bigger, and there's so much more potential in the space, and that's what keeps me really interested in it. And I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that at some point someone's going to walk into my house and literally say, "Is that a real CryptoPunk on your wall?" It's definitely going to happen.
That'll be the day, I think, where everyone's gonna be like, "Whoa, all right, this is taking, mainstream by storm."
So yeah, I mean, I think there's a very, very, very bright future for the stuff that we're involved with. And I think that, places like Art Blocks, you asked about generative specifically. I mean, they're on the cutting edge of the generative art movement. And, it's kind of like you look at the original cast of Saturday Night Live, and all these actors went on to have great careers. Like, there's going to be a lot of people that have got their start on Art Blocks that will go on to change the art world and change the way generative art is viewed. And I'm not really 100% sure who those artists are going to be. So but I want to be involved in the platform, because I know the next, generative Picasso, for lack of a better analogy, is probably going to get his start at Art Blocks.
Awesome. And then what's one piece of advice you would give? We have obviously seen a huge increase of, people that have joined the platform. What's like a piece of advice you would give somebody who's a new collector in Art Blocks?
I mean, I would say seek out people you can trust, for starters, and people that are going to give it to you straight, and don't have an agenda. I think the biggest thing to remember is that it's called Art Blocks, so it's art, and you need to appreciate it as art first. And I think recognizing that aesthetics in anything that you're doing in NFTs, especially NFT art, it's very, very important. I think people don't necessarily weight that properly. And it's served me very well, whether it's been in Art Blocks or CryptoPunks or whatever space I'm playing in. So recognize that this is art first, and the generative aspects are super, super important and play a major role, but aesthetically it has to look good and people have to like it, above pretty much everything else. Rarity for the sake of rarity is not worth owning.
Yeah, I completely echo what you say. So I'm going to switch it over to Raster Eyes, and then later on we're going to have both of you on at the same time talk about the curation board.
Cool.
Well, Raster Eyes, how are you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us this evening. I just want to start off by where were you aware of generative art prior to Art Blocks?
Yeah, I've been aware of generative art since I can really remember. My grandfather was friends with Harold Cohen, who one of the original generative artists. He started doing generative art in the 60s, I believe, back when computers were actually really, really hard to find. He and my grandfather knew each other because they were both professors. Well, my grandfather was a visiting professor, but they were both professors at UCSD, and they were one of the few campuses in America that had a computer, and he was making generative art back then. And my parents have this really enormous piece of his that I used to just stare at all the time when I was a kid and just try and like pick it apart. And when my dad had told me a computer had made it, it never really made sense to me. I was like, how is that possible? So I was always just trying to like analyze, like, how did these patterns emerge? Like what, sort of math was involved with making it. And yeah, and then when I was in middle school, my family got our first PC, and my dad had gotten me a copy of Harold Cohen's Aaron, which was a software that made generative art. And I used to just sit there for hours just looking at generating pieces and just like, it would create like full portraits of people that like didn't exist. And that just blew me away.
Wow, that's awesome. And then how did you get into, the NFT and crypto world?
Yeah, so I got into the crypto world around the same time as VonMises, actually around 2011. I had some friends that were using the Silk Road, and they had told me about Bitcoin, and one of them was even mining it on his computer. And I actually tried to buy some from him at the time, but back then, like making a crypto wallet was like not nearly as easy as it is now. And I never followed through on my end and never made myself a wallet, so I never ended up getting any Bitcoin from him. So it wasn't until 2013 that I actually got my hands on some Bitcoin. I had a buddy who was actually the founder of our local Bitcoin meetup in Philadelphia, and he had hired me to do some graphic design work and paid me. He asked me if he could pay me Bitcoin. I was like, oh yeah, I've been trying to get my hands on this stuff forever. I think that's perfect. Yeah, let's do it. And I did work for him from 2013 until about 2015, and he paid me Bitcoin the whole time, and I held on to all of it.
Wow, that's amazing. So how did you learn about art blocks?
Yeah, I joined the CryptoPunks Discord in 2020, mid 2020. Back then, Snowfro used to be in there like all the time, and we would have a lot of conversations about NFTs and generative art. And he was always talking about his art blocks project that he had been working on for a while at that point. And I was just super excited to see it launch, and I was there the moment it launched and was just like gung-ho about it. Just loved it.
That's awesome. Can you share with us some of your favorite mints? I see you have the gallery pulled up.
Yeah, sure. So these were some of my very first mints. Actually, this one at the bottom right here was my first mint ever. It was also the first Hypersquiggle to be minted, and number 95. And it was funny because actually the mint right after number 96 was also Hypersquiggle, which is interesting because VonMises also said that he had minted 2 in a row. So it's kind of funny how they come in pairs like that, at least in the very early stages. But that was at the time I had no idea that it was like rare. I was just like, oh yeah, cool. That's a really cool looking. I love how rainbowy it is. I had no idea what the different traits were or anything like that. And then that pipe. So I had minted 5 Hypersquiggle, or 5 squiggles. I mean, it was my first sort of dive into the platform, and the next 3 after the Hypersquiggle were just standard squiggles. And then I got that pipe, which I was like, oh, that's pretty cool looking. But I had no idea again that they were rare. I remember posting them in the Punks chat, being like, "Oh, are any of these like rare?" And I think Snowfro or somebody was like, "Yeah, I think that Hypersquiggle, maybe that pipe are pretty rare. Those are some pretty good pulls." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So then after those 5, I went and minted 3 construction tokens, and then for whatever reason, I didn't mint any of the Genesis, and I was like going to come back and do some of those later. But then by the time I came back, they were all gone. I mean, this was kind of like early days where I wasn't expecting things to sell out that quickly. But I guess since there were only 500, I think, of the Genesis and construction tokens, they went up pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
And then I just have like a bunch of my squiggles here. For some reason, it's not letting me move around.
I think I had the same issue.
Oh, it's just moving really slow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can peek around this wall here.
Is that a fuzzy I see in the background?
Yeah, so that's a fuzzy there. I just love fuzzies. They just look like a little poofy cloud. Here's a ribbed Squiggle, which I don't know if you remember Snowfro, but you were trying to come up with a name for the ribbed, and I think I was the one that was like, oh, you should call them ribbed, and you're like, oh yeah, I like that, and so now they're called ribbed.
Yeah, no, because I had called them segmented at one point, but then at least in the code, it had said segmented, but then there was something else that was segmented. I can't remember what it was. It just seemed like it was conflicting. So I loved ribbed. I thought that was rad.
That's cool.
So yeah, I have my 2 ribbed mints here. They're the only ribbed ones I have.
That's a beautiful ribbed too.
Yeah, I really like both of them. I love that one is really dark and one is really light.
Yeah.
I always wanted one that was just like pure white, so that it just kind of like disappeared into the background.
Yeah, and then the endpoint would be the only color that I think that changes. Is that right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and maybe like a little peak of color through the ribs.
Uh-huh.
And I have this other fuzzy at the end, which I love. It's like it goes through the RGB cycle a few times, and it's just like these really big up and down movements. Just kind of fills the space really nicely. And then I guess while I'm here, I'll try and do these ones in the middle. So here's my Unigrid and my what are they called again?
What do we call it? Algorithms.
Algorithms, which I love. I love the sound incorporation and how the sound, especially with the algorithms, how the sound kind of is animated also, and they're just really clean looking. I love the colors.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to switch over really quick to the Unigrid because one of my favorite things about this Unigrid are the 3 letters at the bottom.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know, if you click on after you animate it, if you click on the bottom right, you have to click I think all 3 spaces, right? Like in that general area, and then it reveals 3 letters.
Exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of these art blocks, something that I love about these generative art pieces is that you can kind of interact with them. Typically art, you can't touch it, you can't interact with it in a tangible way at least, and because you might put wear and tear on the art or whatever. But with generative art, you can just totally play with it. It really feels like you're just I think connects you a little bit with the art. I mean, obviously, art is extremely profound without interacting with it, of course. But
it just adds like a different element to it.
Yeah, exactly. Adds something a little bit different that you might not see with typical art. Yeah. And then here I have my hyper hash and my the chaos contract pieces. I forget what they're called. The synapses, I think. Yeah, synapses.
Yeah.
Synapses. So yeah, I'll bring up the synapse too because I feel like with those, the part of what I love about them is the movement and the way it builds and kind of creates these sort of like, I feel like multi-dimensional kind of feelings. And then also the screen grab that they take for art blocks kind of shows it in a midpoint somewhere. I think they look best when they're fully drawn out. Really cool.
Yeah, I love them.
And then in the back here I have my singularities. So the singularities I only minted 7 of, and I was really lucky that I got out of those 7 I was able to get a red one and a green one.
Wow.
If I can somehow get back here.
You have some good luck with these mints. I mean, your first mint ever was a hyper rainbow. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, people have definitely noticed that before, that I get really lucky with the mints that, sometimes I'll only mint like 2 or 3 mints and all of them will just end up being rare. I don't know what it is. It's just, I guess the art blocks algorithm loves me. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe next time, you're minting something, we can kind of like, if you're minting at this time, you let me know and then I'll mint right after and hopefully I'll score something cool as well.
There you go.
Yeah, the singularities are very cool. I love them.
Yeah, I love singularities. They were like the first drop that I was like, felt like was like really dramatic and had lots of texture and felt like something that was a little bit more analog, So when I saw the preview of those before they dropped, I was like, oh yeah, I have to grab as many of these as I can.
That's awesome. What's your favorite art blocks project and why?
Yeah, definitely Squiggles. I mean, like, created by the creator of Art Blocks, I think is like huge, because to me, like, the whole platform itself is like the piece of art almost. It's the idea of putting, this code onto the blockchain and then letting people mint from it, and then the actual hash of the mint creating the artwork is just like really, just an amazing concept, and I love it. So for me, Squiggles are my favorite. And then just just from Squiggles by himself, not considering that they were created by Snowfro, who created Art Blocks itself. I just love how playful they are and colorful, and how all the variations kind of combine with each other. Like seeing like a hyper pipe for the first time, I was like, whoa, that is so cool looking. Um, yeah, I mean, and it just being kind of like the Genesis project on the platforms, to me, kind of just all comes together.
Definitely. Well, what's your, I asked this to VonMises, what's your bigger picture in 5 to 10 years from now when it comes to NFTs or generative art? Like, where do you see ourselves in that time frame?
Yeah, I mean, I see NFTs taking over in a lot of different places in our everyday life. I think anytime I have to do anything that involves like official documents, like when I have to like apply for a passport or something, and I have to like procure my birth certificate, or all these things, or like like you have to, if you don't have your long form birth certificate, you have to like call the hospital you're born at, and just like all this sort of like headache of managing documents. I think NFTs could help a lot there. And then in gaming, obviously being able to own your digital assets in the gaming environment that you're in, I think is like really big. It opens up the possibility for these sort of digital economies. And then when it comes to art, and being able to create, being able to own digital art in its native medium is a really big deal for me, because in the past it's like, if you want to sell your digital art, you have to print it, and then it's like, that's just a copy basically. It's not really the original piece. It's not in its native format. So to me, that's like a really big deal. And then when it comes to generative art, I think it really just makes generative art, like, I think it could actually bring generative art into an important place in mainstream art. Like, it's always kind of been shoved into the corner. In my view, like, you can get like Harold Cohen's and Vera Molnar's and these like really legendary generative artists art pieces for almost nothing. You can, like, for a few $1,000s, you can get some of the most legendary artists and generative art pieces. And I think
that might change here pretty soon.
I think that's going to change.
Just because I know I picked up a Molnar from Kate Voss. I think it was like $7,000. And if you think about, I mean, it's a 1970 piece, and if you think about, it's like a quarter of a Fidenza. I mean, there's just, like that's vintage art, and with all this new attention that it's got, I think that might change. We'll see. I don't know, but I did, luckily, because of all this craziness, pick up a Cohen, a Molnar, some Franck, and most recently oh my God, what did I just get? More. I got a Manfred piece last week, just in case, because I was scared. And I encourage you all to do the same.
That's awesome. Very cool. And then before we move into the roundtable between you and VonMises, what's a piece of advice you would give someone who is a new collector on Art Blocks?
It's a good question. I guess like really the best advice to give someone who's a new collector is to just kind of teach them how, MetaMask works, and like how all the technicalities work when it comes to minting, and because that stuff can be pretty complicated. It's still not really a streamlined process at all. And then I guess the next piece of advice I would give would just be like, get in the Discord, join the community, talk to people that are other collectors and artists, and then just sort of like explore the collections, because that's really the funnest part, is exploring a really diverse collection, and like looking at something like Fidenzas and seeing how all the different outputs sort of like and all the different variables kind of come together to create so many unique pieces and try and to really sort of like understand what makes generative art interesting.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Cool. Well, I want to bring both of you together now, Raster Eyes and VonMises. And I have some questions since both of you are on the curation board. And basically, I'll I'll throw a quick question out there, and then if one of you or both of you individually or both of you together would want to answer the question, that'd be great. So the first question I have is, what is the process for the curation board to select projects?
Yeah, so the process is basically like every week, Jeff gives us the test net, a list of test nets of the applicants, and we look through what's already been minted. You can mint some yourself to see what kind of outputs you get, and then you score it from 1 to 5 essentially. 1 being factory, 5 or definitely factory, 5 being definitely curated, and then you just sort of give a little write up of your feedback to the artist of what you really liked and things like maybe you would like to see improvements on.
Also, there's a chat for if you want to discuss it with other people and just see what people were thinking about it as well.
Awesome. That's great. So when evaluating pieces or applications, how much consideration is given to the algorithm versus, the aesthetics of the outputs?
I mean, like I try to look at them in their entirety, and obviously I spent a lot of time talking before about how important aesthetics are. So obviously, aesthetics are going to play a pretty big role when I'm looking at it. The problem also the one problem I think that I have is that a lot of these projects do have a lot of depth to them, and you can't really get a good sample in 100 or 200 mints. Like you just can't see it all. So it's hard to really give as strong an evaluation of the rarity. I try to assume that the artist is going to build in appropriate rarities, which is not always the case, and look at the outputs and judge them on whether the caliber of the output is warranted of a standard as high as the artists that are there on the curated side. And if it's not, and the bar is being raised constantly, it's something you need to think about.
Yeah. Cool. I don't know if you wanted to chime in, Raster Eyes, or sum it up?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I would have said as well.
Okay. How much weight do you typically give to factors such as, social media followers when evaluating a submission for curation?
It's kind of like the last thing I look at, probably. That might kind of like if I'm in between 2 scores, that might push me one way or the other, maybe. But yeah, otherwise it's not really something that has a heavy, effect on how I decide to score someone.
What about?
Oh, God.
Oh, I was just going to add, I was just going to add, on top of that, do you also look at previous projects they've done in the past that might be available online?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I would look at their previous work and see how their submission kind of fits in with their broader portfolio, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If someone's well known, you're going to view it with the context of stuff that they've done in the past. But in general, I would not look at someone's social media presence other than if I had known who they were and known that they've done other works. That would be something to think about.
Gotcha. And then, does a curation board or you two individually, do you have like opinions that you provide to artists as far as, the mint size and then the price of the project, especially now with, how popular Art Blocks has been? Is that something that, that factors into everything?
I mean, look, if I don't see a huge diversity of outputs, then I'm definitely going to recommend smaller sizes. But in the same sense, like at this point, if you're doing a curated drop, like, I don't know, is it ever going to be a 500 curated drop again? I don't know. Maybe that's going to be too small. I don't know. So
I think you might see that once we start figuring out different minting mechanics. Like if we are finding success with other ways of minting where people are actually using restraint, maybe not during crazy hype times also, you might. I think you actually might.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like I've not factored in the fact that I wasn't really thinking about the fact that it's just changed, and I do like that change overall, by the way.
I mean, 0.1, 400 mints at 0.1, I think we'll never again happen on a curated drop. Like that's just completely impossible. Even maybe 0.2. But finding with some price discovery, I think it's not that unreasonable. I think that it's very clear that if we did a drop of 200 now, the value would be, as long as it's great art, the value would be significantly higher because of the rarity. So yeah.
I did get the chance to mint 17 elevated deconstructions out of the 200 that were minted.
I love talking to y'all two here, because back then it's like, who cares if you mint 17? Like there wasn't that many people minting. I guess Singularities, took 40 whopping minutes to sell out. It's like, and people were already kind of starting to complain back then about getting, priced out. But I mean, it lasted 40 minutes. It's amazing to see how it's changed now.
Yes.
Where, I mean, I get one if I'm lucky. I didn't get, glitch monsters. So
yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy. So what does the curation process, or what does curated mean to you individually, or, for the board as a whole?
Yeah, I think curated is just supposed to highlight kind of like the most forward pushing kind of like pieces. I think like every curated piece, I think aspires to sort of like push art blocks to another level and generative art to another level, and just sort of displays all the greatest works on art blocks.
Definitely, I agree with that, and definitely want to try to keep the standards as high as possible, because like if you're looking for that future generative art star, like you want to make sure that the group of people, like you want that to have the attention it deserves, and so you want to keep the standards as high. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. If you had to pick, like individually, pick one single most important factor in determining whether a project passes, for the curation process, what would that be for each of you?
For me, it's just like how fun the combinations of the variables are, I guess, like, and how many different combinations those can be. Like that was something I think Fidenza's really just nailed, and just how varied all those combinations can be. Like and then I guess on top of that, like how polished the project is, but that kind of like goes hand in hand to me a little bit with that. So
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I would say diversity of output and aesthetic, diversity of output, and aesthetics.
Yeah, because aesthetics, I think, are just going to be obviously the first thing that people see. So you'll have a really good idea, I think, from the get-go, at least a little bit.
Definitely.
Cool. In the process for selecting projects for curation, is that changing, for the upcoming series, given the upswing in popularity of the Art Blocks platform?
I'm not really sure the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so I guess what I'm trying to say is, is the process for selecting projects for curation, has that been elevated significantly given, the upswing of popularity?
Definitely. And I think like the obviously the caliber of the artists have gone way up and continue to not that artists in the past were bad. I'm saying we're attracting higher caliber of artists that are spending more time. As the money goes up, naturally you're going to have people putting more time in and working harder and trying to define their stuff better. And an output like Fidenza, I think, is really validation of some of the things that we're starting to see now. So definitely, yeah. I mean, the bar's constantly being raised, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the most challenging part about being on the curation board?
Part of it, I think, is also just finding the time. Like it takes at least me like an hour to look through all the pieces, which I mean isn't a lot of time, but when my time's already spread so thin, just sitting down, and because it takes a while, you have to look through a lot of pieces to really see like kind of what's going on and understand how the generator is working, and you really have to sort of like pick it apart, and to really be able to give your input, because you could look at one or two pieces and you can determine pretty quickly whether you think something looks cool or not. But to really understand whether the actual generator itself is doing something really cool, you really have to look at, for me at least, like 20, 30 pieces and really, and also try and remember each piece as you look through it to see what the differences are and things like that.
Yeah, I'm completely in agreement. Finding the time, I feel like, especially lately, it's just trying to stay on top of a job as well as everything that I'm involved with in NFTs. It's 16-hour. I feel like it's 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I've never had, but mind you, I've never had more fun doing what I'm doing than I'm doing right now. But in the same sense, it's like, yeah, it's because you want to give things the proper amount of time. I definitely have missed a couple, of the just haven't been able to find the time sometimes. So, but I do want to say that for me, like being affiliated, even in a small way, like through the Curation board, it's really is an honor, and I really value it and appreciate the opportunity to have any say about what happens at Art Block. So, I just want to say that.
And we opened up the application process a couple of days ago. What is, one piece of advice you would give a generative artist that is looking to apply for, the Curation, or just like to be on the platform in general?
My advice would just be like, don't rush it. Like really spend a lot of time polishing it, making sure it looks really good, and also getting a bunch of other eyes on it, getting feedback from other people, other artists, people whose opinions you respect, so that way, maybe you can flush some of the issues out before it even gets to the Curation board.
Yeah, I mean, this could be life-changing for someone, especially now. Stakes are definitely high, so don't F it up, don't. It's, I mean, you have one, literally one chance to, to do a curated drop. Like, don't screw it up. Take the time, spend 5 times more time than you think you need to make sure it's right. Look, it's good. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead and finish your sentence.
No, just like you see some of the caliber of work that comes out where, like, there definitely have been or are drops, other platforms, or sometimes it happens where the outputs aren't all there, and that's just not going to get you where you need to get right now. It's the places, everything's way too competitive, in my opinion. And now, yes, a lot of stuff will get minted regardless, but if you want to have start your career and launch it in something and have follow-up deals and be viewed in the right light, you have the opportunity. If you do a curated drop, don't take every chance you can to make the output as good as possible, and you will be rewarded for it.
Awesome. And then, so finally, my last question for the both of you is, what type of generative art projects are you personally looking forward to seeing in the future on the platform of Art Blocks?
I want to see like just stuff that's like really creative on like an interactive level. Like, I'd love to see like projects that kind of where you maybe the art changes over time, like how that Mutant Gardener project is something on those lines. But maybe, or like, I love some of what Death Beef is doing when it comes to like being able to like tune your pieces and like kind of like tweak aspects of it and then push that to the like push that data somewhere so that the changes that you make to it actually kind of get written onto the chain somewhere. I don't know if that kind of stuff is even possible with Art Blocks, but someone can figure out stuff like that. I think, to me, like what makes generative art and computer art in general really interesting in this realm is the ability to kind of like do these things that you can't do with regular art. So yeah, anything that kind of like explores those kind of territories to me are like really interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I something that would change over time, like really change over time, would be something cool. Again, I don't know how doable that is, especially on blockchain, if it's possible. But like that would be something that maybe if it took a year to see the whole thing, I mean, I don't even know if that's possible. But that, like, something like that would be I think kind of interesting to see, have it evolve very slowly and even change, completely potentially. But yeah, no, I mean that's. I just want to see great artists keep coming and innovating. I love the fact that so again, I have been talking quite a bit about Fidenza, so I apologize. But the fact that like it has this very big crossover potential and appeals, like a lot of people that have no idea of generative art that I've shown my galleries to will be like, they'll look at theirs like, oh, that's cool. They're like, oh, but I really like that. What is that? It's almost always a Fidenza, a piece that they're talking about. So I find that interesting that people outside of the generative world really like the look of that. And so like I think that's interesting because I can also appreciate the incredible amount of programming that I'm sure went into generating that, and yet it also appeals to people that don't have any conception of what went into it other than it's aesthetically pleasing. So I think that's interesting.
Awesome. We'll appreciate all the feedback. And for both of you, if you don't mind, if you have any social media plugs you want to throw out there before we move on to our next segment, I'd love for you to share those with us.
Yeah, sure. I'm not a huge social media person, but I do have a Twitter. It's @_Raster_Eyes_. And otherwise just hit me up on Discord. That's probably where you'll get the most interaction from me.
Yeah, VonMises 14 on Twitter. I try to put out, relatively good information about what I'm involved with, trades I'm looking at, why I'm buying certain things. So if you want to stay on top of how I'm looking at the world and why I'm making the decisions I'm making, typically I'm going to make the decision first before I tell everybody, but I have no problem as soon as I do something, no matter how big the size of the trade is letting people know. And, if you've followed those trades, they've been pretty spot on. So people definitely can get some insight as to what I'm doing by following me on Twitter.
Very awesome.
And you can always hit me up on Discord too. Also, VonMises on Discord.
Great. Well, thank you both so much, VonMises and Raster Eyes. Thank you so much for spending time talking about your collections and also, sharing us a little bit of information about the Curation board.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, the next segment, it's the Love to See You highlights of the week. I have 4 submissions from people in the community that are doing well, and they're nominating other people in the community. And so I'm going to just go ahead and start. Nefnet nominated username Bone for putting together some creative sets. They posted some mints with similar palettes, but from various projects that all worked well together. And yeah, we just always love seeing people being thoughtful and building sets. So thank you to Nefnet for nominating Bone. The second one we have is L. Bannon, who would like to nominate D. Bachman. The fact that they want to create something everyone can remember these after dinner mints by, even if you don't want to squiggle, makes you feel all warm and fuzzy. So for anyone who doesn't know, we have like an unofficial non-Art Blocks affiliated POAP. I don't know if that's how you say it, but it's like POAP. But anyways, D. Bachman has created one. The first one is being released today, so thank you, D. Bachman, for that. The next one was L. Bannon again, but nominating Snowfro. Snowfro has gone above and beyond in thinking of ways to better improve how new projects are rolled out so that it is a better experience for both artists and collectors. The Dutch auction and open hour minting session were both hugely successful in the community's eyes. His dedication and love has made it easy to put our faith into supporting any ideas and decisions the team brings forth. So thank you, Snowfro, and thank you, L. Bannon, for that comment. And finally, we had Craft Not Art nominate Zeneca33. The username Community Evolution really loved his Enzo and had publicly been saying so. But I guess they messed up and sold it at mint price this morning before the price went up. Zeneca asked for their address so he could send them one. And then later on, Craft Not Art realized Zeneca was actually the one who bought the original Enzo, and they worked out a deal, and he bought it back for the same price, which was well below floor at that time. So very upstanding thing to do. Thank you again for everyone who submitted a love to see it highlight for the week, highlighting good in the community. And thank you to everyone who submitted a highlight. For the next week, anyone can DM me, and we'll go ahead and move forward to the next thing, which is our Squiggle giveaway. We're starting a little bit different this week. Luke, who helps with the production, helped put this together, and we tested it out earlier today. I think it'll be successful. But obviously, I know not everyone will be happy, but it's going to be a fair thing to do. What you need to use is the Artblocks wiki page. So that's the artblocks.wiki. That's where you're going to find all the answers. And this is a community-driven Artblocks wiki page. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to drop a link inside of the Art Block Mints channel, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer all 3 questions correctly. And all the answers can be found on the artblocks.wiki website. And so for those who get all the answers correct within 2 minutes, their names will be put into number generator, and then one person will be the winner for a Squiggle. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link. I might need to drop it a couple times because the speed of how comments are moving, I'll have to, some people aren't going to see it. So I'm going to drop that right now. There is a little bit of a delay in the audio, so I'll just post it a couple times. But yeah, you'll have 2 minutes now to complete all 3 questions. All the answers can be found on the artblocks.wiki website. And then anyone who correctly does all 3 answers, you'll see a spreadsheet to the right of me, and your name will populate automatically inside the spreadsheet. And then it'll be next to a number. It looks like a lot of people is flying right now. After the 2 minutes are up, Luke's going to let me know when 2 minutes is up. We'll close up the website, so no more submissions can be entered. And then we'll have basically a website that will randomly generate a number, and then that number will correspond with the winner on the spreadsheet. So yeah, during those 2 minutes, I don't know, Snowfro, if you have any news or notes you want to quickly add?
Well, good luck, everybody. I just want to say thank you for the kind words for the minting processes, and I definitely wouldn't be able to pull this off without all the amazing people on the team. You guys have no idea how many hours Jeff and I have spent talking about all the potential ways that things could backfire or not backfire, and not to mention just like dozens of direct messages with community members. I mean, really, these decisions are hard. I think you'll know that. I think you can tell by my walls of text that, like, my wall of text on Monday probably took 3 hours to write. I'm not even joking. Like, I just want to make sure that it's like, put together clean, and that we make it very clear that we're trying our hardest. But yeah, those kind words, I want to just spread them out amongst everybody else that I get to work with every day, because I'm just super happy that I get to work with such an amazing group of people. And yeah, I think we're, gonna see. I think I say this every week, so y'all are gonna have to not kill me. But I think this week we're gonna onboard artists to the new website. We're kind of targeting last week. I think I might have caused a delay there with one of the feature scripts. Artists that are listening, you may know that I'd say 30% of my time is spent uploading your feature script to the Art Blocks project, and you are going to get to upload your own on the new website. And I just could not be more excited for you guys to get to control that yourselves. We'll see how that goes. We have to backwards add like 110 projects, but no, outside of that, we'll get the feedback from the artists, and then once we get the green light from the artists, we'll be ready to go.
Cool. All right, Luke, how are we looking? Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Great. Congratulations, son. So if everyone's looking right now, you can see we have 111 entries. Luke will hit the button to generate, and it will basically give a number, and then that number will correspond with the number on the spreadsheet of who will be the winner of the Squiggle.
Oh, man.
So we'll go ahead and press that. 45.
Oh,
who's that? I can't even, it's kind of small. Can you type that in the Discord by chance so that Snowfro and I can see it, and then we'll go ahead and... So Thor's, 699. Okay, Thor's, they've definitely been on for a while. So let's see if I can tag them. Thor's. Please. So if Thor's listening, please give us your address, and Snowfro will fire up the minter for a brand new Squiggle.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that third question, did everybody get the same questions, by the way?
Yeah, they're all the same,
cool.
yeah.
Because question 1 and question 2, I was like, heck yeah. And then question 3, I was like, oh, I'll actually have to go to the wiki to
yeah. For anyone that hasn't used it before, we really want to thank, man, I know I'm going to miss some names, but I know D. Bachman was definitely in front of that. And I think, was it NefNet also was also a huge supporter. And hold on one second. Thor sent me their wallet. I'll send it to you, Snowpro.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
it's a dream team.
Yeah. And I know there's been some other people. So thank you so much to the people who have built and contributed. I mean, it's a huge undertaking to put that all together. So I just want to thank the entire team that put together the ArtBlocks wiki page, and it's only going to continue to grow. And yeah, we just really appreciate you putting that together.
I think you could ask like 10 questions. Make people really dig a little bit, because I enjoyed that way of doing the mint. Very cool. All right, let me see if I can get you a squiggle here. Somebody mentioned they were feeling a hyperpipes today, so let's see.
That would be sick.
But you know what that means is that potentially the one after that might be it also, based on like
so you'd have to win the next one. I have like 7 backlog squiggle mints that I have to do too, so I guess those might come through the minter later tonight or maybe tomorrow.
Cool.
Like, I couldn't believe that Hannah doesn't have a squiggle. She's been working with us since April. Yeah, so Hannah's getting a squiggle in this next batch.
Definitely get it. I love it.
And tomorrow we're excited to announce our newest member of the team. His name is Patrick, and he's starting tomorrow, and he'll probably need a squiggle as well.
Nice.
All right, a nice rainbow. Whoa, is that a?
Wow.
Is that close?
What's
That
the
looks
what
like
are the
a close
stats on it?
spectrum there. Let's see here.
Wow. We're gonna have to check the details, people.
It's got to be 1411 to be a perfect.
Oh yeah, I guess you gotta count those. Let's see. Let's wait for it to render. Until it renders, it won't show the.
It's close. It's close.
Oh, 202 to 213. Man,
Close.
those perfect spectrums and full spectrums have been going for some crazy amounts of money lately.
Yes.
Yes.
I sold a perfect for 90. Yeah.
Wow, that's
I remember when I bought one for 5, and I was like, "Oh, that was so much."
That's crazy. Well, there's a squiggle. It's animating
I love your
right
squiggle.
now.
I love it. You have like basically the full rainbow there.
Yeah, it's a really nice
Congrats.
one for sure.
Congrats, Doris. That's awesome. And thank you for everyone who participated. We're going to be changing the questions and everything every week, so we'll try to keep it as fair as possible. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the new process. But yeah, Snowford, I don't know if you had any other notes before we kind of wrap things up for the night.
No, that's it. We'll keep it short and sweet tonight. And I don't know, Max hinting at a drop next after dinner mints, which, geez, I mean, I don't think I'll get much done if you do.
Wait, during the after dinner mints?
I guess y'all should work that out just to make sure it's not too crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
that was
definitely.
That was the original intent of these calls, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we're able to actually mint, I mean, it's going to be challenging for us when we're talking. But I respect whatever the artists want to do. You know,
we'll see. It might be one of those Dutch auctions that starts at 10 ETH. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'll let him do that.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you though. I don't have anything else to contribute other than I'm just super grateful for everybody's patience, everyone's conviction, everyone's appreciation for the art, for the artists, for the team. We're just so excited. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank Raster Eyes and VonMises again for being on tonight's show and just, providing us information about the curation board and sharing your collections this evening.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Thanks, guys.
And then on next week's show, on August 8th, we have Ryan, who is the creator of OnCyber Galleries. And then we also have Mitchell F. Chan, who has an upcoming factory project, I believe sometime in the next week. So tune in for that next week. As always, you want to make sure we have the Discord on the right side of the screen of the YouTube, of this YouTube live stream. That's where all the community lives. I'm talking about collectors, artists. If you're interested in learning about generative art, like jump in any of the channels if you're unsure. I mean, there's a lot of channels I know, but jump in any channel and we'd love to help you out, point you around, help you find out what you're looking for. And yeah, comment, like, and subscribe to the ArtBlocks YouTube channel. And finally, as always, be excellent to each other, be kind, look after each other. Make sure you get enough sleep. I know this is, being in the NFT space is definitely time consuming at times, but yeah, be excellent to each other, and we will see you next week. Hope you all have a great night.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.
Right.